Good morning. Howdy. Still waking up, so excuse me. I apologize for that. Oh, whoops. Howdy. We're Jay chilling now. What's up? I have some coffee on my right hand side here, and I got a new creamer, um, cinnamon roll flavor, so it's gonna be good for trying it for the first time. I should probably set up the chat just in case. Or try. Okay. We will put that over here. All right. Hope everybody's doing well. It's been a while since we've done like a proper stream, you know. Gotta get that situated. Okay. So here's what's going on. I mean, I don't know if there's gonna be any structure to this stream at all. I think I'm just going to like look at shit and then respond to it and give my personal opinions. Really no different than many other streams, hearing me say it out loud. Okay. So the first thing I just pulled up here, okay? I literally just pulled this up on Twitter just now. Well, before we get into that, actually, let me just briefly state, first off, I have held reservations with talking about this issue mostly because I felt like it was a like evolving thing, but so I didn't want to like give my immediate hot takes, I guess, right off the bat. I wanted to like absorb what was coming out and like see what was happening, and I'm trying to like maybe stray away a little bit more from like breaking news, like stuff where the stories are changing by the hour. You know, there's updates constantly, and that is the case here with Israel versus and Palestine. I think that's this is like one example, right? I mean, obviously the Russia-Ukraine war is another example, but yeah. So just want to get that out of the way. But with regards to this issue, so that is I've held off in that respect, right? Um, but for me, like, I guess I'll just give briefly what my opinions have been about this whole thing. So first off, the past couple days, really since October 11th. So this whole thing started on October 7th, and I have been taking notes on it since then, or not since October 7th, but I've been taking notes on the timelines, right, of what's happening, what's going on, what's being reported from whom, all that stuff, right? The thing though is that I am up to date as of October 11th because I have not updated anything on my document so far since then. But it's okay. We'll roll with it. So basically, my general opinion on the matter is that both sides are pretty fucked. I think that the initial attack from Hamas was I think that there are arguments to be made that it was not unprovoked, but at the same time, it definitely was. However, I do believe that the initial attack, Hamas obviously, I mean, doing this is a declaration of war in of itself, right? But both sides have engaged in very despicable acts against one another. Well, I mean, we can get into the nitty gritty on like who is more guilty of what and that or the other thing, but at the end of the day, in terms of like consequentially what is happening, the amount of people being killed and the amount of radicalization, whatever, that has taken place preceding and during this conflict has, I feel like it's pretty even on both sides. I think the historical context surrounding the situation is also like important to keep in mind, obviously, with respect to this specific war. We can lay more of the blame, in my opinion, towards Hamas because he's the one who initiated the conflict. However, we cannot ignore how far Israel has gone in terms of encroaching on Palestinian territory. Um, the extent to which that has contributed to this conflict is no more than the extent to which it's contributed to like the foundation, the fun or yeah, the foundation of Hamas, the establishment of Hamas. Generally, though, I would say that both sides have been pretty bad. It's a pretty ugly war. And unfortunately, we're in a time, like we're in an era where like people are very hyper partisan. So people are going to look at things, very one sided, right? And you know what? I should probably be. I should probably. Hold on. I am going to copy this. All right, we got that. So, okay, where was I? Both sides, in my opinion, have engaged in comparable levels of awful acts against one another. And it's not even just with this specific war. I think it's been throughout, the history between these two nations, these two states, whatever. But this all began, obviously, on October 7th, right? Hamas launched 5,000 missiles in the span of 20 minutes. There was at least 5 people killed in the initial projectile attacks. There was a hostage situation on the same day. Also, the Israel Electric Corporation cut off power to the area and reduced Gaza's power supply from 120 megawatts to 20 megawatts. So this forced it to rely on power plants paid by the Palestinian Authority. Remember, this is all on the same day, October 7th. In the same evening, though, Hamas launched another barrage of about 150 rockets towards Israel. And then the IDFs also fought back by hitting 17 Hamas military compounds and 4 operational command centers. And then overnight, leading into October 8th, Israel struck up to 426 targets in the Gaza Strip. Hezbollah, the same morning of October 8th, launched rockets and shells at the Shebaa Farms region in response to the Israel Defense Forces. In response, the IDF fired artillery shells and a drone into the southern Lebanon. I should probably just show you my screen. Like, why am I not doing that? Um, this is gonna Hmm. Some of the targets that the IDF was targeting included like homes of Hamas officials, tunnels. There was also a mosque that was targeted. Now I don't know if targeting religious sites is like off the table, like a guideline for war. It probably is not. And honest to God, like with the Geneva Conventions and all that shit, like this seems only relevant insofar as prosecuting people after the fact. It doesn't seem like a deterring element, like a deterrent for nations, because when they're in war, they really just go balls to the wall. They don't give a fuck about anything. On the same day of October 8th, there were several Palestinian gunmen riding in a stolen car, but they were killed by Israeli forces in a shootout. Evacuations of residents living near the Gaza Strip were ordered. Netanyahu appointed the former Brigadier Gal Hirsch as the government's point man of missing and kidnapped citizens. And also, the IDF said it had called up to 300,000 reservists and said it's aiming to eliminate Hamas' military capabilities. They are full on. So at this point here in October 8th, they have essentially committed to the overthrowing of Hamas. And then on October 9th, the IDF continued, or at least this is from their own reporting, to strike 500 targets in the Gaza Strip, one of which was a refugee camp, which caused dozens of casualties, which also included killing children. So it isn't one of those things where like, now I don't know how this would work, but I think in a refugee camp, sorry, I'm just reading this real quick. So this is a part where like people may say who are defending Israel may say something along the lines of that they just like from the skies release leaflets for the citizens to read, and then they're like, you know, it seems kind of disgusting. This is just my personal opinion, but it feels kind of disgusting that like some people who are defending Israel will make the claim that um that they are more in the right because they give warning to the civilians in Palestine. This seems like an it just seems wrong because it's kind of like saying, you know what, we gave you a warning, but now we have every right within our power to incinerate your like entire family. It just seems doesn't seem right, you know? Because what if there are people who are like, disabled who may not be able to evacuate in time? What if there are some people who are too old, too ill to move? What if there are people who are orphans and don't understand the extent to which those like what those leaflets mean? Like, there's a lot of circumstances I could personally envision where children, children, disabled, the elderly, are going to be unable to evacuate or understand what those leaflets are outlining. It's an unfortunate situation for sure, but I just don't think that the release of I think the leaflets itself is fine, but even then, like, I don't think it's good enough to justify those targets. You know what I mean? That's my opinion, though. people are more than welcome to disagree. Hamas said that it would execute Israeli hostages if Israel continued to bomb civilian homes without advanced warning. So, without advanced warning, obviously, like I mentioned, they're already releasing leaflets. So, there goes that. Excuse me. The defense minister announced a total blockade of the Gaza Strip that would cut electricity and block the entry of food and fuel. And he also said that we are fighting human animals and are acting accordingly. Can we get some audio?
Israel is changing the skyline of the Gaza Strip, flattening it. Medical officials in Gaza say more than 700 Palestinians have been killed. Israel has also cut off Gaza completely. No power, food, and water allowed in. It's a total siege.
I know, it's not loud enough. There's not much I can do about that.
The Israeli government says the goal is to crush Hamas and drive the militant group from power. Israel has told Gazans to seek shelter and protect themselves. But where can they go in a region that's sealed off? And this war, now in its fourth day, could soon get far more intense. This morning, Israeli military vehicles are lined up outside of Gaza, ready for a potential ground assault. On Saturday, Hamas launched an unprecedented attack, sending more than 1,000 fighters into Israel. Hamas says it prepared for this for over a year, and this morning released a video which the group edited and blurred, showing its fighters practicing blowing up security fences around the Gaza Strip and breaking into Israel. Israelis have also been collecting dash camera and CCTV footage to understand how Hamas attacked. In one video, Hamas fighters can be seen entering a kibbutz, laying in wait for a car to open the gate, shooting the driver, and then slipping in. More than 100 bodies of Israelis were later discovered there. Another video shows what it was like to try to escape. The car racing away is shot in the windshield. The driver still manages to keep moving until more shots come in, and the vehicle loses control and crashes. U.S. officials say Americans are among the dead and missing, possibly taken hostage.
Yeah, so this adds another wrinkle to the situation. Geopolitically, any nation whose citizens are captured or killed in the crossfires, even in the crossfires of conflict, is a big deal, especially when those nations are first world nations. This allows for there to be a vector for those respective governments to get more involved in the situation.
Hamas is now threatening to kill hostages and film the executions unless Israel stops attacks on civilians in Gaza.
Also horrific, Richard. Okay, with the fighting picking up, are we seeing indications that a broader war may be breaking out soon?
I don't know what she means by broader war, unless she means like with the other nations surrounding Israel, like with Egypt and shit. That could be the case. But yeah, I don't know.
It is possible. So far, we've seen some attacks from Lebanon, but they have been relatively small
That's true, yeah. We already went over that a little bit.
in scale. So there is that potential, but at this stage, it does seem to be contained. But if there is a ground assault, and if there are...
Okay, yeah. So anyway, this isn't really a true point out what I was saying. This is a real quote. It's really fucked. This is dehumanizing language. But it's also important to keep in mind that yes, Hamas initiated this conflict. However, Israel has not viewed, not every Israeli, but many of them, it seems like, especially the ones in power, view Palestinians as subhuman. Israel exchanged a series of airstrikes on southern Lebanon near towns, those towns. The Israeli Air Force deployed these different, planes across Europe to collect hundreds of off-duty IDF personnel to be deployed to the conflict. So they're just gathering a bunch of people, basically. So October 10th is just a continuation of the war, and the gathering of supplies. This is when the first reports were coming in with babies being killed and women being killed, and some of them being decapitated in their own homes. So the monstrosity of these acts were made publicly available on October 10th. I have seen some. So the thing with these babies being decapitated, okay? Here's the thing about that. Those are reports on the ground from Israel, reservists, right? They're people who are from, like, on the ground and are part of the state of Israel, right? Now, in my mind, I usually try to think of, like, what kind of bias some people may have when they report something, especially during times of war. Now, with Israel, obviously they have a vested interest in making Palestinians and Hamas look as monstrous as they can in this time, because there's a couple reasons why. One of which could be that they want more funding or support from, the world. So that could maybe, manifest in, like, more, like, weapons being shipped to them and aid shipped to them and that kind of shit. So Israel's reporting this. Now, Biden has since come forward and said he has seen the pictures. It's no secret, though, that the US and Israel also share a close relationship with one another. Now, I'm not saying all this to say that the claims are false, but I think that's important to keep in mind when you absorb news like this, especially, like, like I said, during times of war. Now, obviously it's possible that babies are being decapitated, obviously. But it's just, like, difficult to take just at face value, considering that they are not allowing third-party news or journalists to verify it. They made the claim, and it's not on this document, but they made the claim, Israel, that it would be insensitive to share that information, or to allow people to verify it. I think it was more so to, like, show pictures or something. And the only pictures that I know somebody else other than Israel has seen was Biden, because he said he saw them. But again, the United States and Israel have a close relationship with one another. So at the end of the day, to me, it doesn't even fucking matter whether babies' heads are being decapitated, because they were still killed. That's something that is indisputable, because there is pictures and all that of, like, women and children that are killed, like, actually killed. Now, the extent of that barbarity being decapitation, that is not verified, at least as of right now. I don't know if there's any verification of that. From what I have seen up to this point, though, that has not been verified by a third party. That has only been confirmed by Biden, who, again, has a good relationship with Israel. So, but to me, it doesn't even matter whether they were decapitated, because, like, they were fucking killed. Either they were burned alive, they were shot through stray bullet. I mean, like, they were killed. So that's the only thing that fucking, like, matters in terms of measuring how much ire and disdain we have for those acts. So yeah, we move forward, and this is the last day that I have any updates, really. There were massive drone strikes in northern Israel on the 11th of October. There's also discussions of having a safe corridor from Gaza Strip with Egypt, amid UN concerns over damage against civilians. Because right now, many civilians who have nothing to do with the formation of Hamas or anything like that are being killed. It is a terrible situation. And the result of that, let me actually, so the result of that, okay, they wanted to establish a safe corridor. The result of that was basically just no. Egypt refused to allow civilians to flee the Gaza, that the Gaza Strip. Um, so at the same time, though, there's shit like this. Now, I don't know who this is. Maybe it's not a representative of Egypt. Obviously, it's not. Egypt stands with Palestine. It's just like really fucked because like now I don't know what the Egyptian sentiment is surrounding Palestine. I know that they were through the Camp David Accords appointed as one of the mediators, maybe the sole mediator between conflicts that take place between Gaza and Israel. But I don't know what their sentiment broadly is surrounding the acceptance of refugees, like the citizens. I know that the state itself has refused in the past the admission of refugees. And in this circumstance, they're not even allowing a corridor for them to evacuate. They have all this fucking sand, like sand as far as the eye can see, no civilization whatsoever. And these assholes won't even allow them to like walk through it as their entire families are being bombed. Like, it's just sand. Their fucking country's sand in one river. It's amazing, actually. So anyway, that was the result of that. Give me 1 second, actually. Hold on, please. Okay, sorry about that. So if we go and look at some of the reactions around the world, it's pretty what you would expect. Saudi Arabia, Egypt, some of the nations in the region, with the exception of, well, maybe some of them, but Saudi Arabia, Egypt, Jordan, these nations have demanded de-escalation. And a bunch of other citizens in these countries are like caught in the whirlwind. So they're trying to evacuate them. Yemen, Jordan, Lebanon, Kuwait, Iran all stood with, the Palestinian groups. In Australia, near the Sydney Opera House, there was a video of them chanting "Gas the Jews." I could probably find that pretty easily. We're not at which point at that point yet. Yeah, that's fucked up. Now, yeah, that's fucked up actually. Yeah, there's like no way around it. I was about to say maybe they aren't actually saying gas the Jews, but no, it seems likely they are. Now, look, I'm a pro-freedom guy, okay? Pro-First Amendment. If you want to go on and say all that shit, then you should be allowed to. Okay? It's fucked up. It's really fucked up. But they should be allowed to do it anyway. Now, this sentiment, okay, that I'm expressing is, I don't think that unpopular in America, but it seems like it's unpopular in like Europe. So let me show you what I mean. I don't know why this is never like, it's France's Interior Ministry to ban, okay? Ban pro-Palestinian protests. Now, I just... Let me see if I find, like, actually... I'm sorry, I'm, like, speechless. Let me see if I can find, like, France ban protest. Okay, let's read a little bit of what this means. French police and members of the Gendarmerie... What? Okay, them and their words. Worked to disperse the crowds with tear gas and water cannons. Well, that's fucked. Jesus. Well, was like... Okay, well, there might be... I don't know. The ban had been announced earlier in the day, according to the message sent by the French ministry, citing concerns about public order. So basically, they're just saying, like, hey, the protests are getting so out of hand that we have to ban them. Which, come on. You do not have to ban pro-Palestinian protests to get things under control. Yeah. Pro-Palestinian demonstrations must be prohibited because they are likely to generate disturbances of public order. Does he not understand the premise of demonstrations? They're supposed to disrupt the public order. That's like the entire point of protesting. What? That is insane. This reasoning is completely ridiculous. He also called on the police to protect all locations visited by French Jews, such as synagogues, schools. Okay, this is pretty stupid. This might actually be like a worse response than just letting them get it out of their system. And also, what you're just, it's not like, if you're going to arrest people anyway who are creating general disturbances to the public for protesting, then you banning the protests altogether doesn't really accomplish anything anyway. The ban follows a deadly massive attack by, yeah. The Israeli government has retaliated with a force. The airstrikes have killed over 1,500 people in the. That's another thing I need to find out, is like, what is like what's the death toll right now? Yeah, let's check it out, I guess. It's more updated information. This was as of 4 hours ago. Gazan hospitals flooded with injured people as death toll climbs above 2,000. Injured persons are continuing to stream into hospitals. More than 2,000 civilians in the Gaza Strip has been killed in the hostilities. In a video obtained by CNN, sources of injured people can be seen being rushed into the Al-Aqsa Martyrs Hospital. Emergency services at the hospital are seen rushing. The health ministry also said that 8,714 citizens have been injured in Gaza, and with varying degrees of injuries sustained. Among the injuries are 2,450 children and 1,536 women. So the death toll will 100% exceed 2,000, but I don't know how much. I don't know what, when all is said and done. It really just depends on how long this war drags on. But yeah, like this is like really bad. The cutting off of water. So let's read a little bit. The United Nations has described the situation in Gaza Strip as a matter of life and death, warning that the clean water supply for 2 million people there is running dangerously low. The UN also warned of increasing risk of waterborne diseases. So keep this in the back of your mind, okay? What we just read, this paragraph, keep that in the back of your mind, knowing that Egypt refused safe passage for those who are living in Gaza. They do not want them in, even crossing through their country filled 90% of sand. They do not want that. They instead want to show their support, apparently, while forcing them to live in an area that is currently being bombed and having its utilities removed. It has become a matter of life and death. It is a must. Fuel needs to be delivered now into Gaza to make water available for 2 million people. Lazzarini highlighted the devastating impact of the blockade on Gaza. That's another thing there is. Yeah, blockade, yeah. Which has received no fresh humanitarian aid for 1 week now. Clean water is running out in the Gaza Strip after its water plant and public water network stopped working. It's just an insane situation. I think we're reaching a territory where the response from Israel has been disproportionate. Now, I'm not saying that Hamas's initial attack was not horrendous. It absolutely was. But we are at a point where we are going to see more casualties and more suffering amongst those living in the Gaza. A lot of this blame is, I think maybe an equal amount of blame could be placed on Hamas and Israel with respect only to this war that's happening right now. because Hamas did initiate this. He is absolutely to blame for why this is happening right now. However, the response from Israel has been, it seems like it's disproportionate from what I'm reading. That's what it seems like to me. Because when you cut off utilities in the manner they are, whether it's power or water, you are attacking the entirety of the people there. You aren't just attacking like the terrorists anymore. You are attacking the entire nation. And I don't think everybody in Palestine or in Gaza, wanted this. And it's pretty fucked as well that surrounding nations aren't allowing these people to flee or evacuate. This is incredible right here. This statement right here is incredible. Only in the past 12 hours, hundreds of thousands of people have been displaced. The exodus continues as people move into the southern parts of the Gaza Strip. Nearly 1 million people have been displaced in 1 week alone. We need to truck fuel into Gaza now. Fuel is the only way for people to have safe drinking water. If not, people will start dying of severe dehydration, among them young children, the elderly, and women. So, it's just a fucked situation, okay? I think my general sentiment at the beginning, it remains the same. I think both sides have engaged in comparable levels of depravity towards one another. Historically, I think that the fighting between the two has also been comparable. As I read more, I still maintain that initial sentiment, but if I keep reading and I discover more and more here, I don't know. I'm feeling like maybe this response from Israel is worse than like the initial attacks. Now, it's not a competition. Both things are really fucked, okay? Both are really fucked. But from what I'm reading here, with the cutting off of utilities and all that, it really does feel like really fucked. Because you're at that point, like I said, you're attacking the entirety of the Gaza. You're not just like targeting terrorists anymore. I mean, they're even leveling whole fucking neighborhoods of people who are living there, It's a really fucked situation. Humanitarian crisis grows as Israel cuts off Gaza. The number of internally displaced people in Gaza is increasing as Israel airstrikes continue. With all the crossings closed, essential supplies, including fuel, food, and water, cannot reach the territory, leaving residents in dire need. And keep in mind, Egypt is not allowing them to walk flee, basically. They don't want any of the refugees. Hospitals and residents are relying on generators for power, which are running low on fuel, and water access is affected by power cuts. Access prohibited by Israel. There is a fishing zone limit of 6 nautical miles in the north end, so they can't go through sea, apparently. The Gaza power plant has the capacity to generate just 16% of Gaza's electricity demand. The enclave is reliant on Israel to fill the deficit. These two crossings are closed. This crossing as well is closed, which seems to be near Lebanon. It's in the northern part here. Inside the fence, there is a 985-foot restricted area that's only accessible by farmers. There's the international airport, which has been closed since 2002, apparently. Egyptian fence. This section is 8 miles long. It was built by Egypt, which operates a pedestrian and goods crossing. Wow. Just insane. CNN has geolocated and authenticated 5 videos from the scene of a large explosion along the evacuation route for civilians south of Gaza City. The videos show many dead bodies amid a scene of extensive destruction. Some of those bodies are on a flatbed trailer that appears to have been used to carry people away from Gaza City. They included at least several children. There are also a number of badly burned and damaged cars. It's unclear what caused the widespread devastation. The explosion occurred on Salah Dean Street on Friday afternoon. CNN has reached out to the IDF for comment on any airstrikes in the same location. The IDF told civilians in and around Gaza City that they must move south to avoid being caught up in the Israeli military operations. In other words, please move or else we will incinerate you. That is what this actually means. Israel calls for the evacuation of northern Gaza. This is like, again, and I said this earlier, it feels kind of disgusting that people will morally pass off what Israel's response just because they're giving them advance warning. I think that's kind of silly. There are certainly people living in Gaza City who are unable to evacuate in time. You can't just say they gave them advance notice and then like wipe your hands like, it's all good, man. You know what? Now we have permission to kill you. Like, it's just, it doesn't work that way. I mean, I guess I don't know what the alternative would be. I don't know. But I do know, what I feel pretty confident in is that the leveling of entire neighborhoods seems unjustified. It doesn't feel at that point you are targeting terrorists. It seems like you're actually just destroying the entirety of Gaza because you view them as animals, because that's what the defense ministry said. Or, what's the defense ministry? Somebody high up. Oh wait, it was in reactions, wasn't it? No, it wasn't. Defense minister. Yes, so the defense minister views them as animals, is what he said. They are fighting animals. It's a terrible situation. I will say that multiple times throughout this. It is a terrible situation. Jordanian foreign minister declares Israeli actions as war crimes. This is unsurprising. Many countries in the Middle East do not like Israel. I don't know if the displacement of civilians would constitute as a war crime. I do not think, like the legal definition, I do not think that is true. I could totally be wrong on this, for sure, but the displacement of civilians during wartime feels like par for the course, so it being a war crime wouldn't make sense to me, really. Colloquially, maybe, but yeah, like legally, I don't know if that would be like. And the problem here is that this is one of those issues that's hyper-partisan, okay? So you're going to see a lot of takes that are by people who hold strong convictions on both sides. But at the end of the day, it really does feel like both of these nations, Israel and Palestine, have engaged in comparable levels of, depraved acts. We're entering a point, however, and this is my opinion that it's forming because it's evolving as more news is released. But the more I read, and in the coming days, we will see. But I feel like the response from Israel is becoming disproportionate if it has not already. Um, okay. Okay, I think we can move on to some of the takes on Twitter because they're really bad. Or I shouldn't say that. I think they're very reactionary. We already saw that. What is this? So I had this pulled up and I didn't talk about it yet, but children among many killed by missile strike which hit convoy of people fleeing northern Gaza on evacuation route. Now, based on the reporting that I am seeing from like CNN and these other, news agencies, it is likely. Now, this is unconfirmed. This is my speculation, but it feels likely that this missile was from Israel. That's what it seems like. It was in Gaza, and the IDF has been bombing the fuck out of Gaza recently. That would not be surprising to me. BBC Verify has confirmed women and young children were killed when a strike hit their vehicles as they headed away. I'm gonna have to bookmark this for later when I update my document. As they headed away from northern Gaza. Analysis of images from the scene show some of those who died were ages between 2 and 5. Israel has warned 1.1 million living in North Gaza to evacuate south, and thousands have been fleeing. Has there been, correct me if I'm wrong, but hasn't there been like airstrikes in the south too of Gaza? Not just in Gaza City? I mean, I could totally be wrong, but I thought, oh, maybe I'm wrong, yeah. Some are pointing now that Rafah crossing, which is around the southwest of Gaza, as we were just explaining, is the focus of some dual nations trying to leave Gaza. Palestinian content creator has spent the day at the crossing between Egypt and Gaza. He says around 500 people holding foreign passports have been trying to get out with no success. The border crossing itself isn't safe. There's bombing and there's no shelter. People got messages telling them to be there from 12 to 3 p.m. local time, but at no time during that window was the crossing open. Wow. Nationalities at the border include American, British, French, Chinese, Swiss, and Swedish passport holders. The vast majority were dual nationals, also holding a Palestinian passport. Some of them are in touch with their embassies, who told them to return to their homes, but some of them don't have homes to go back to. If that's the case, that's pretty fucked. Because, like, Israel itself told people in Gaza City to move south, okay, to evacuate south. Okay. Well, this Rafah passing is in the southwest of Gaza, not Gaza City, in Gaza. So this leads me to believe that many people there are people in the south of Gaza who excuse me, let me rephrase that. There are people south of Gaza City that have been, like, their homes have been destroyed, obviously because it says right here. Which means that their homes were bombed, and in all likelihood from the IDF. But if that's the case, then why are they? That means that Israel is bombing all of Gaza and not just Gaza City, but they are saying for people to evacuate from Gaza City to the south, which is displacing many people, of course. Now, it could be the case that these citizens were coming from Gaza City too, I guess. That's totally possible, maybe it's even likely, but that's, I guess the claim I'm trying to figure out here is it true that Israel has bombed not just the areas they said for citizens to evacuate from? That is the claim I am trying to figure out. I could probably find it out easily, and maybe I've overlooked it earlier, but it seems like the case that Israel has bombed areas that were that from what I've only seen them say Gaza City, everybody in there, you got to get out, right? Um, that was the official evacuation order. But it seems likely that they've also bombed areas in Gaza too, or southern. But yeah, whatever. This is a very haunting quote. So yeah, so Gaza City, this is the evacuation area, okay? But the Rafah crossing is down here. People have said they have no homes to go back to. So it's either they were coming from Gaza City, or Israel is also bombing Gaza proper and not just around the Gaza City area, the northern Gaza. I mean, that's pretty fucked because they're saying evacuate from here, but like they're still bombing down here anyway? Unless they mean like we're gonna invade this. I don't know. This is all just my speculation, okay? The U.S. government is encouraging its citizens in Gaza to move south toward the Rafah crossing with Egypt. The only crossing in and out of Gaza that is not controlled by Israel has been closed because of Israeli strikes on the Gazan side of the gate. Why would they do that? Hold on, let me read this again. The only crossing in and out of Gaza that is not controlled by Israel has closed because of Israeli strikes on the Gazan side of the gate. So they're just bombing relentlessly without foresight, it seems like. Because are they not considering that there are people from other nations with passports or dual citizenships that live in Gaza that are trying to leave? At best you could say it's a lack of foresight, and at worst you can say it's malicious. I don't even know what. I think it's more likely it was a lack of foresight, because why would you do that? Like Israel, like I said earlier, Israel and, a lot of Western nations, including the United States, are on good terms. So, like, you would figure they would want to allow safe passage for those living in those areas, right? Living in those nations that support you, is what I'm trying to say. Yeah. The U.S. State Department says that citizens should be ready at the crossing for its possible reopening amid the humanitarian crisis, especially after Israel ordered the evacuation of the northern part of the Strip. It's just terrible. And in Egypt is being really unreasonable right now. There needs to be humanitarian access though, too. You can't have this situation where Egypt will not allow for people to safely evacuate Gaza and also cut off any humanitarian access full stop. That this is a recipe for disaster. You cannot have both of those things happening. You're gonna you're literally enabling a situation. You're making a situation worse by prohibiting people from fleeing a nation that is currently being sieged and bombed to fucking ash. You're preventing people from leaving there, and that same nation, Israel, is cutting off utilities to that same nation, so people have no fucking fuel, water, shit like that. And on top of all that, humanitarian access is restricted at this point. So all of those things combined here are exacerbating an already terrible situation, especially for those people. Well, especially for everybody, but it's just stupefying that. I don't know. It's hard. This is really just fucked. Because I don't know. I don't think Egypt is on good terms with Israel either. So that's fucked. And that may be also why they don't want people to be coming in from Gaza. it's a whole. It's just so fucked. A call. It's actually the worst case scenario. Okay. Well, yeah. It's obviously a terrible situation. I'll have to update on this shit. Um. Yeah, and if we'd like, let me see here. Some of the responses from like the left on now this is a whole other thing we're about to get into here. The responses from the left has been abhorrent to say the least. It's actually so bad that I think like we're reaching a point where this single thing that's happening could very well just tear off the mask of like lefties, because many people who are younger, especially I guess, but many people I feel like right now in the online space, we're just strictly talking about that right now, sympathize with some of the narratives that prominent lefties have, right. Hassan's very popular for a reason, but um, his rhetoric on this has been abhorrent to say the least. It's been very pro-Palestine, um, and just a lack of nuance, very partisan. That's kind of the issue, though. And this is kind of one of the reasons why I kind of strayed away from like the left in general, because I feel like a lot of their politics and the way they view the news and shit feels similar to the way far right people interact with the news. It's not exactly the same, um, but it feels very similar. They're very partisan, and that's really the biggest thing that has turned me away from like lefties in general, online especially. They seem very partisan, unwilling to engage in nuance, unable or unwilling to like you know uh, be reasonable or not give a reactive take right there and then. I think that these are all that's just some of my criticisms, but they culminated into me being a little more moderate than I was even earlier this year, but especially a year or two ago. Um, yeah, I just like it's crazy. But we'll look at some of the takes, some of the insane things. Actually, is there any clips of Hassan talking? Because that would be maybe on Lexington, so Philadelphia. Yeah, they should be. There will absolutely be a Hassan shit. Oh wow, there's not much actually. What the fuck? Destiny reveals his plan to replace Hassan at the left of Destiny. What's with all this Destiny shit? Translates Hassan's opinion on talking to Ethan. Okay, I just want to hear Hassan talk about this shit. That's all. I really thought it would be on. Maybe it's not. I would like to hear from the horse's mouth. Hassan, biker. Maybe we'll find something. Oh shit! Wait, there's also Ben Shapiro's takes on this because I mean he's Jewish. He's probably going to go further than I would go in defending Israel. What is the? I don't even know what this fucking. What is India 100? I don't know this news program. Okay, is the Leftovers podcast the H3 podcast? No, wait. I'm so stupid. The H3 podcast is just the H3 podcast. Whatever. Okay. Anyway. Hassan Pike. So I guess he was crying. I don't know. Wait. 13 hours ago. Okay, it's pretty new. Hassan Piker has left many viewers touched after sharing his despair at a 2-year-old clip of Israeli forces attacking a crowd of mourners during the funeral of Palestinian American journalist. I do think I remember this. 2 years ago, though. Wow, time flies by. Piker, co-host of the Leftovers podcast, said through tears that the incident's really fucked up and asked whether Palestinians can have a moment of peace. He was speaking during an episode covering the ongoing war between Israel and Hamas. In the discussion, Piker played a clip of the funeral. Yeah, I remember this. Who was shot dead while covering a raid in the West Bank in 2021. Yes, okay. In 2022, her body was taken into a casket from the town of Jenin to her funeral. In a procession, footage showed armored Israeli officers attack the people carrying the casket with batons. This was really fucked, by the way. Now, I don't know if anything justifies this. I don't know if there's any context that I am missing. However, if my memory serves me correctly, it was as bad as it was like reported on. Yeah. Broke down in a tear. He said they want her funeral. They want to wait. Okay, why are we talking about shit from way back in the day though? 2021. This is kind of irrelevant. Wait, this isn't even like in the recent shit. I'm reading. Okay, yeah, I'm reading shit from like a long time ago. Just all I want is just his recent fucking. Okay.
I know that there was some people who were looking to hear what I had to say about the issue, considering my...
So when was 5 days ago? Oh boy. Oh, spicy. Okay, this is around the beginning of the conflict.
Support for Palestine. And of course, I am still in support of Palestine. I believe that the people of Palestine...
Now, this is initially, okay? So the initial attack from Hamas was horrific, and the response to that point from Israel was not at a point where I would say it was disproportionate in the wrong way. I think that Hamas and their attacks in the initial phase, we'll just call it until October 10th, those, honestly, it really started when they started cutting off, like, utilities. And the bombing raids, and like, yeah, I think like, I mean, they really went balls to the wall, Israel. But in the initial days, so the date that this was released, so this obviously was recorded on October 8th or prior to, the initial phase, the first couple days of the war, I feel Hamas was more in the wrong, for sure.
Deserve emancipation, just like the people of Ukraine deserve emancipation. This is one of the most unjustifiable and unimaginable and ongoing acts of cruelty. And that cruelty, of course, is going to inevitably have some kind of blowback. This is what Israel and the Israeli...
Such a terrible analysis. I feel like just relying solely on historical context is a really convenient way of being able to pass off a lot of bad shit that side is doing. You know what I mean? We'll let it play a little bit. I'm not gonna watch the whole thing, but
citizens are currently experiencing, the unimaginable cruelty, a fraction of it being experienced, and of course, the victims, the toll is taken upon the normal citizens. I am not going to be one of those people that says like, oh, they're settlers, they deserve the violence, they deserve getting shot in the streets. No.
Well, one of his orbiters do. Now I'm not blaming Hassan for this, but we'll get to her in a minute.
Nobody deserves that. That is precisely the reason why I always criticize Israel. Obviously, nobody deserves that. But this is, of course,
Obviously, but
and this is, of course, going to happen. What do you
yeah, this is a terrible analysis. You cannot only rely on historical. You cannot just rely on the history between these two nations and say they started it first. They started it first. It's a lot more complicated than that. And I'm sure that you can point out very easily instances where Palestine has engaged, unjustifiably against Israelis. So it's like, putting that aside for a second, we really should look at this as an isolated incident. Now, keeping in mind some context historically is important, but to rely on it, I think that's not right. I do not think that is a proper way of viewing this situation.
think is going to happen when you have an open air prison?
Because this is kind of like the fuck around, find out thing, I don't think that's really fair.
That you have been operating for years and years when you okay, and there are obviously still some incredibly brave people out there, but like I said, this is asymmetrical violence.
Well, at this point, yeah, but I don't know. I don't want to dwell too much on him, but I just want to give you a general sense of his opinion. But if we move forward and look at some of the responses from, where is she? Oh, I have a lot of shit in my mouth. Jesus Christ. Yeah, I mean, sorry. Yeah, but like, look at this shit. Israel leveling. When I say leveling, I don't mean, I mean leveling neighborhoods. It's fucked. Even with warning, this is fucked. Okay, not to get sidetracked here. Where is? Yeah. This person, I barely even know who the fuck this is, by the way. I only know them because of, like, people, because of, she's, like, on my timeline, I don't know their pronouns, but, yeah, I don't, like, barely even know who this is. I do know that they're a Hassan orbiter, though. Gonna start asking white people if they condemn every mass shooting that happens. The dumbest fucking shit I've ever heard in my life. Yeah, man. I'm sure it's very difficult for white people to condemn mass shootings. Maybe not all of them, but that could just be applicable to the reverse analogy here. And then they have the gall to act like everybody is fucking stupid but them, for being obviously sarcastic, when in the past and currently Frogan has signaled support for Hamas, and in the past has been racist. Like, yeah, that's, you totally were being sarcastic, for sure, 100%, yeah. It's just so dumb. But it is what it is, am I right? Anyway. It's a lot of misinformation as well. Yeah, it's just crazy, man. But as, I'm about to wrap it up here, but as the news unfolds, my opinion will probably evolve. But as of right now, I feel like, both sides have engaged in comparable levels of, destruction and turmoil against each other. I think right now we may be shifting to a point where the response Israel is having to the situation is disproportionate. They are cutting off supplies to Gaza, and they're just leveling neighborhoods. And they're not it doesn't seem like they're just targeting terrorists or Hamas. It seems more like they're just destroying all of the fucking, entire area. So it feels like right now we're transitioning to a point where Israel is engaging in a disproportionate response. However, for the most part, for this conflict, it seems like both sides have engaged in comparable levels of like terror, I guess. But that's just my opinion. So with that being said, that will be it for today. That's really the only thing I wanted to discuss, but it's crazy, and hopefully, things get better, and we can. I think really the next big thing to happen, that should happen, is allowing humanitarian aid to be accessible to the people living there in the Gaza, and for people to have a safe corridor to evacuate from there. That's very important. I think those two things are important. But that's all I have to say about it for now. So stay safe.